So, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the talk. I have with me Scarlett Demitro. So, thank you for being on the
Hi,
podcast.
anytime.
So, now a lot of people in the adult entertainment industry have different classifications for themselves. How do you classify yourself in the industry?
I kind of just say I'm a round, just a full entertainer. So I really don't classify myself into one like genre since I do everything from like mainstream to fetish to full on porn.
And so, obviously, you seem very intelligent, you seem very educated. How did you first get involved in this industry?
Well, I actually danced for a long time at a gentleman's club in Orlando. And I actually got into that because my mom used to be a dancer in New York when she was a teenager. And so a lot of like the dancing I had learned from her, and I kind of needed extra money at the time, and so I just kind of went in and applied, and they hired me that day, and and I worked there for like 7 years total.
And now, what is the dance scene like in Orlando, and what goes on with clubs, and how do you deal with gentlemen, and how did you learn the trade?
Well, okay, so the dance scene is a little different in Orlando compared to a lot of other clubs across the country. There is no contact in Orlando, like when you're dancing. They have like what they call the 3 foot rule, which nobody ever really follows. You just can't really be touching the other nobody could be touching each other when the dress comes off. Whereas like if you go to West Palm, which I've danced at the Rachel's in West Palm, um, it's full contact, full nude, everything. Where in Orlando, you wear this titty tape over your nipples, and you keep your G-string on, and you have to wave your finger if the guy goes to touch you at all, and the bouncers will come over and give them a warning. Um, I actually, though, I made a lot. I did really well, kind of like being a counselor to a lot of gentlemen that I met there. So for a while, I never had to like for like 2 3 years straight. I never danced or took my dress off in Orlando. I mean, I think that's what makes it a little different because especially when you get a regular, you kind of sit there and you're talking to them about their day and their situations that are problems, things like that. So I mean, that's what makes Orlando a little different than a lot of the other places.
And now with West Palm, how do you feel about contact when you're dancing?
It is different. You have to put yourself in a different mind frame. I don't mind it. Um, I do have a rule when I go to West Palm. I don't do full nude on the main floor. I go up to the VIP room, so it's a little more personal, so that not every Tom, Joe, and Harry could see what's going on. But you get paid a lot more per dance, so or per hour. So I mean, I to me it all like balances out. I mean, I've never really met a creepy guy, so I think if I met a creepy guy, I don't think I'd probably do a new dance for him. It's actually what's funny is the women are really aggressive. No matter what club you go to, it's the women customers that are very aggressive.
And so, talking about VIP rooms, how do they typically work?
Well, okay, so if you're in like Orlando, it doesn't have any VIP rooms in any of their clubs. Basically, you kind of have to negotiate your time with the person you're sitting with. So, like whether you're on the main floor or you're in their little VIP like lounge where they serve like bottles of alcohol, there's no set rule for that. So like I would say, okay, well this is how much I'm going to make this night. If you want me to stay with you, I'll be just exclusive to you. I'll take myself off stage. This is how much it's going to be. When I worked in like West Palm or the other clubs down south, it was really different because they actually have different levels of VIP rooms. And like the Rachel's in West Palm, like they have a $400 an hour room, a $600 an hour room or $1,000 skybox that they call it that overlooks the stage, and the girl gets half of what's in there, and pretty. I mean, I don't want to say not everything goes, but it's a lot more lenient in those rooms. Meaning, it's full contact. It's just private time. The only time the waitress comes in is to see if you want any alcohol, things like that. So it's a lot more intimate.
And you just said that women tend to be more aggressive in these clubs.
Yes, very.
How are they more aggressive? Because this is the first time I ever heard of women going to these types of clubs at all. So I'm very curious, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too.
Uh, Women actually a lot of bachelorette parties go to gentlemen's clubs and strip clubs just to have a great time. And once, of course, you get a little alcohol in you, you kind of forget the rules. And the women do not understand the no contact rule. They think it's okay to touch when you're not supposed to. So you always have to be telling them, no, no, you can't do it. And they're like, well, we have boobs and so do you, so it's no big deal. And I mean, when some of them get drunk, they grab really hard. So I'm really surprised. A lot of them are stronger than men. So we just kind of like play off, and just be like, you can't do it, you can't do it. I'm sorry, things like that. So
So would you say that women in these clubs tend to be more aggressive than men most of the time?
yes, normally women only come in, like we have a joke. Women come in with their boyfriends on Friday night because Friday night date night, and Saturday night is like party night. And the women that come in Saturday are way more aggressive than any man I'd ever met. I actually, when I used to dance, I used to turn down women and not dance for them just because they would be very aggressive. Like they would try to take your panties off. They would sometimes themselves. They would take their tops off. Very grabby. Not understanding no. So yeah, they are a lot more aggressive than men.
And with the dance scene, you said that it's very competitive, and I would imagine it's very cutthroat backstage. How do you?
Actually, I wouldn't say it's competitive. I mean, there's always a couple of girls, that don't get along. But I know when I danced, I it was like a big family. We all helped each other out. Like when one girl was having a bad night, we would bring that girl to a table that was making money. Or if one girl got really drunk, we would help her get dressed and make sure her money was locked up in her locker so nobody would take it. I mean, I think there's always a few bad eggs in any job or industry or any company. But I know, like, wherever I went, everybody just seemed to get along because everybody was there for the same reason.
And when you dance, how do you go about choosing what to wear?
That actually goes by what club you work at. I mean, every club's got like their own rules. Um, the clubs that I worked at, they uh, they usually did gowns only, except on like Sundays. They would let us wear short dresses. They wanted us to look very like glamorous and everything else. So there was a dress lady that would come in 3 times a week, and I just take a look at her rack and try things on, and whatever I felt sexy in, or I'd walk around the room in whichever dress like I saw the guys looking at me in. That would be the one I would buy, especially anything that made my boobs look really good.
And speaking of body image, how do you
hmm
accentuate yourself in this setting?
Oh, I really definitely the heels. The heels do help a lot when it comes to all the girls. If you notice, all dancers have like perfect asses. It's because of those heels. They lift you up really nice. The type of G string you pick out. I think it really though for me it was the hair and makeup that really because it would anytime I felt sexy with my eyes or something, I would exude sexiness and just exude self confidence in the room.
And now you mentioned before that with skyboxes you would typically get half. How did your cut work with these clubs? And does it typically work with every girl?
Okay, so like if there is normally dancers are independent contractors, so you get paid, cash tips. All girls work off tips, and you pay out the club a fee depending on what time you get there. And the later in the shift you get there, the more you pay, and that's just to teach the girls to try to get there on time for the shift. Now, when it came to like VIP boxes and things like that, they would use something like club dollars, and you would get half of that. Now, the only thing with club dollars is, like, say if you went to the $1,000 skybox and you get 500, you still have to pay the club 10% off that 500 for them to cash it in at the end of the night, and that's any club. Whether you get club dollars just for dances, you still have to pay 10% at the end of the night for them to turn it into real cash. So, and then after that, you have to pay your DJ depending on how long you're off stage, and no matter what, normally it's about 10% of what you make, plus if you're off stage, an extra tip, and then you have to pay out the bouncers for protecting you and walking you to your car and things like that. So, where you would make like $1,000 in one night, you're not walking out with $1,000 at the end of that night.
So obviously, just from my hearing of everything you just said, dancing doesn't seem all that profitable per night as
Not
it seems to be, and it's one of the myths I think of dancing in clubs.
it really depends on what we say. It's very easy money. Um, every city has their slow season. During the slow season, it is not profitable. A lot of times, you'll lose money. You have to pay for a license for every club you work at. You have to pay, and especially if you go to Vegas, like that's an outrageous amount for the licensing fee. You're paying, like I said, you have to pay out the bouncers, the club, the DJ, the house mom for doing your hair and makeup, for using her products. The gowns go anywhere for the gowns usually start off at 150 if you get a pretty like decent looking gown. Um, shoes, the G strings. I used to laugh because our G strings would start off at $25, and I'm like, for a little piece of fabric, oh my god. So yeah, it can be very pricey. I think it's not for every girl that wants to get into it. I think if you have the right personality, you can make a lot of money. I had a friend that made $1 million in less than 5 years dancing. And then I have a friend that has really never made anything, has just broke even every single, with just her bills and everything else. So I think it really just depends on the girl.
And obviously, some dancers recruit their friends into this. Have you ever recruited anybody you know or any of your
Uh,
friends?
I never recruited anybody. What I did see a lot of that. A lot of girls recruit their friends into it and say, "Oh, we're going to make a lot of money together." I've seen those friendships come and go because they get jealous of each other. The only relationships I've ever seen last, like when they recruit somebody else in there, is sisters. They seem to, of course, because they're sisters, and mother and daughter dancer team. The mother recruited her daughter when her daughter turned 21, and they actually make a lot of money together.
And now there's a lot of movies that show this. Motley Crue has an entire music video kind of alluding to this. What is the drug scene and alcohol scene like in a dance club, both in public with the gentlemen and the women, as well as behind the scenes?
So I think everybody thinks that dancers are slutty, drug abusive alcoholics. And that's our joke. Like, I've had people ask me to get them plenty of different types of drugs and things that I would never touch in my life. I've had customers ask to try pay me to get drugs, and I'm like, I would not even be able to tell you where to go because nobody I know even comes close to doing anything like that. Um, every club I've ever worked at has been super clean, super strict about the drugs. Anytime they have caught a girl doing drugs, which is maybe like twice a year, they have fired her immediately and never let her back because they just don't want that in their club because it's just such a liability. But I think every customer that walks through the door thinks that we have like cocaine in our lockers or weed or whatever.
And now, what was your favorite part of dancing?
um, I think the one thing I miss most is my regulars, my customers that I had. I got to meet a lot of interesting people, um, and the relationships I made. I did love the feeling of taking off my dress, like for a private dance. I wasn't a big fan of the stage because I have stage fright. So, especially like the first dance of the night, I would be like petrified. So,
And now you've
but
also, oh, please continue.
oh no, I was just gonna say, like, I think the best part were the relationships I made with everybody, including like I still go back. I don't work at Rachel's anymore, but I still go in. I'm lucky because it's not too far from my house, but I go in all the time and I see those girls. And I've been lucky enough to start other businesses, and I've kept my promise. I always said it like anytime I have a super good day, I'm going to come in here and spoil you guys. So, and that's what I do. I go in there and I do that. But you know, we still all hang out. I still have the girls over for dinner. They know like if they get drunk at the end of the night, they can come crash at my house, and we're just all really close, and we still hang out and everything.
And now to talk about another thing that you've been involved in, which is camming as well as porn. I don't know which one came first.
Um, well, actually, what happened was when I was working at Rachel's, the money started going down, and you know, a lot, I don't know if men got happier in their marriages, which I hope they did. A lot of my customers were divorcees, um, and so I got into phone sex first, and that was unique. But it demanded a lot of my time because it's not just the phone sex. You had to do blogging and advertisement and everything else for the company. So I was like, I do not have 14 hours a day to devote to this. So I saw an ad online to get into camming, and I did it. And I worked with a few companies, Flirt for Free, StreamMate, and Kink.com. Kink actually was sold to Flirt for Free. And and during that time, I was doing the porn at the same time. I'm thinking I got into I'm trying to think when I got into porn. You think it would be like a momentous moment? Actually, I got into porn while I was doing fetish modeling while I was dancing. So yeah,
So,
I don't
so
know.
to talk about this, so while you were dancing, you started out by getting into phone sex.
Yeah, I started doing phone sex. The modeling stuff I had always done on the side for like the longest time, but I got into phone sex to bring in some extra money, which believe it or not, there was a good money in that. You wouldn't think so anymore, but there is.
So, what were the challenges of phone sex? I mean, you listed a few, but what were some of like the major challenges that you faced?
The major challenge, and I am not judgmental at all. Like I am to each their own. Whatever you want to do is, your own business. Um, the challenge for me was going along and talking about some of the fetishes because the phone sex site I was working for was a no taboo phone sex line, so you could talk about anything on there. And it just got really hard with some of these fetishes that the guys would call and talk about, and you would have to pretend or act out over the phone. And that was one of the biggest things that I really didn't like about the phone sex.
And speaking about fetishes, I mean, how did you know what they were interested in, and how do you get your information on certain fetishes so that you can at least act out or fake it, for lack of a better word?
Um, so the phone sex company I worked for, the clients would direct dial me, and they would tell me kind of what they were into before I took their credit card information and processed it. So when I would say, okay, well, once I process the information, I'll give you a call back in I'll email you back in 10 minutes so you can give me a call back and we could, have some fun time. Well, while the card was processing, I would Google their fetish if I wasn't familiar with it and kind of like look up really quick what it is. But I mean, most fetishes I'm pretty up to date with, just from fetish modeling and things like that, or just hearing it around like FetCon. But there was a couple that I wasn't really sure of.
And what are some of the fetishes that you didn't like, and what are some of the fetishes that you do like with the
I
phone
am a
sex?
I'm a huge furry person. Like I love doing the furry. Um, I didn't mind doing the snuff the snuff phone fetish or the anything like rougher stuff because I'm a horror movie junkie anyway. So I was like, oh, cool! This is a great way I could play a victim. I didn't mind that. I think the biggest one, the hardest one for me, and it's because I'm not into it anymore, is anything with like adult baby stuff and diaper stuff and the toilet stuff like that. To me, I'm not into that at all. And the extreme age play, I'm not a fan of at all. So it was very hard for me to even take those calls. And unfortunately, you can't tell them no. You have to kind of just go along with it. So people would hang up on me really quick when I would start those phone calls because I wouldn't be any good at them.
And then from here, how'd you come into Stream Aid and kink?
Well, I was doing it since I was already doing fetish modeling. For me, it was like no big deal, And I'm like, if I'm already doing phone sex, let me just see what's out there. And the first one I worked for was StreamMate. And I Googled webcam companies and they came up and I applied and I got the job actually with my partner that I'm with. And we would do couple camming and it was fun, there was a couple of times, I didn't want to see what I was looking at the other end because you could do cam to cam. But there was some great people on there and fun people and, some people that would ask for unique things that I've never tried before. And who doesn't like to play with themselves and actually get paid for it? I mean, there's nothing better than that. I was getting paid to have sex with my partner, and I was getting paid to play with myself. I mean, it's you can't really ask for a better job than that.
And now with StreamMate, how does the cut work with them?
Well, it depends on how much you're bringing in. Um, Webcamming goes anywhere from you'll get 21% to a max of 30%. And then you could do an affiliate program where if you refer somebody, whether it's a customer or it's another performer, then you can get a percentage off of that. Um, it's not, some girls are very successful off of webcamming. I have never truly been successful like those girls, and I know I never will be successful in the webcamming department. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of just a lot of patience. Um, so yeah, when I got my paychecks at the end, I was like, okay, that wasn't what I expected. So
And now with webcamming, what is the setup like for you on your end, and how do you like what equipment do you have and what equipment do you need?
Um, so as long as I use a laptop, I don't have like a main computer. When I worked at Kink, I worked out of a studio. So we were blessed with, all the high tech equipment, like the best desktop computers, the best setup. Like they had the dungeon beds and they had cages available, or the spider web backdrop that you could use. They had the best cameras, the Logitech with the remote control that you can control. That was my favorite webcam company working for. Um, when I'm at home webcamming, I set it up in my bedroom or in my living room, just depending on when it is. I have a cage that I have behind me. I make it look very girly. And I just use my laptop and another screen, and I have a Logitech camera, and I just place it in, plug it in, and go. The only thing I would definitely recommend to any girl is to get a wireless keyboard, because it is a pain to kind of run up to the computer and type for the guys that don't have sound. It's easier if you can just type from where you are, so you could stay looking sexy and just keep typing.
And now with StreamMate, how do you deal with toys, and what toys do you like? What toys don't you like?
um, I I love anal in real life, but I will not do anal on cam. So I keep my anal toys hidden. I have a bunch of different size dildos. Um, I have my ball gag that I love that I put in my mouth. I have nipple clamps for people that are really into it, that will pay that extra. I'm not into nipple clamps. My nipples are very, very, very sensitive. Just even thinking about them, I'm like, ooh, nipple clamps. My collars I always wear. I always wear like my kitty ears. Like I said, I'm a furry fanatic. Um, but yeah, just I keep a lot of lube available, because even though you keep playing with yourself, you don't always stay wet. So I keep a lot of lube available, and my little bullet. That's what I keep also, or my vibrating rubber ducky. And while I'm like not in a show, I'll just keep it on top of my panties to keep me like excited all the time.
A vibrating rubber ducky, but please elaborate.
So I went one year when I went to Fetish Con. There was these booths, and one of the booths had a big section of these things called My Rubber Ducky. And they all have like they look like regular rubber duckies that you would put in the bathtub, and they each have like their own little costume. And mine has like a devil costume, but they're vibrators. Like they have batteries, and the thing vibrates massively. And so you just like hold it up against yourself, and it's like a bullet on crack. It seriously is. Like this thing has like the highest vibrations I've ever felt, and it's like my favorite toy. And I have dropped it, taped it to hold it back together, because I've broken like the bottom where you keep the battery, so I have tape on it just to hold it together. But it's like my favorite thing, and it's really loud, unfortunately, now that I dropped it. But they come in like there's an angel one, there's like a little one that's wearing like a teddy bear, one that's has like a pool noodle, not a pool noodle, but the thing you use to float in the pool. Of course, like I said, I have the little devil thing, but they are so adorable. But yeah, they're sex toys.
And now with Kink, they have an entire section of toys, and they have everything,
Mhm.
including fuck machines, as well
Yes.
as with Kink. A lot of the time they do couple shows. How do those
Mhm.
work, and how do you feel about being a dom, and how do you feel about being a sub?
Okay, so naturally I'm submissive. Occasionally, depending, it really depends on the partner, but most of the time I'm submissive. I love doing couple shows. I love doing couple shows with a guy. I love doing couple shows with a girl. Um, I mean, when I'm with a girl, I'm always the submissive. It just happens to work that way. Um, when there was one guy that I would be the dom with, I think it's just more fun because you're always playing off one another, and when there's not a lot of people in your little chat room, you can joke around and you you can keep everybody more entertained, and um, you could use a lot more toys. I mean, it's great to use a Sybian by yourself, but when you have someone forcing you to use a Sybian and they're controlling the volume, it kind of, you know, makes for a different type of play, a lot more fun, a lot more excitement because you don't know what's going on.
And now with kink as well as streammate, you have the ability, and more so with kink, to kind of set your prices and to set prices for toys. How do you determine your prices?
Um, I so for pricing with kink, I I had one set price, you know, like the general regular what it is with every other thing for when I was by myself, and then when I was with another person, we would go up to the max, which the max is $9.99 when it was with kink, because there's two people. Like when you're by yourself, it's usually about $7.99 a minute. So you're really only adding $2 extra for that other person. Um, you know, for depending on whether I like the toy or not like the toy was what I would charge. But we kind of like all the girls got together and kind of sat down and we all kind of had the same pricing because we all worked in the same studio, so we all had the same pricing. I'm like, okay, we're going to charge this much for this and this much for the paddles and this much for the crop, this much to take our tops off if we're not in the middle of a show. Um, and if we didn't like something, then, you know, like for nipple clamps, I'd be like, okay, listen, I'm not a big fan of nipple clamps, so for me to even put them on, it's a minimum of this. So that's really how we went about pricing. We all got together and we had a price sheet of our own, and then we would just adjust it to what we didn't like or couldn't handle.
And now you've worked with a lot of girls in kink. Do you have a
Hmm.
favorite woman that you worked with?
Oh my God, I have a few favorites. Miss Whitney Morgan, I love her. I love shooting with her for anything. She's just so fun. Another one was Goddess Valora. I had such a great time with her. And then Princess Aria, she makes the perfect dom. Like she doesn't even have to touch you, and you're still shaking in your panties. So she's like the one of the best doms I know out there. So those were the three main girls that I really worked with a lot. I don't get to talk to Princess Aria too much, which is, you know, it's just because of our schedules and things like that. I talked to Valora quite a bit through like Twitter or text, and Whitney I see so much. I'm fortunate enough to be able to work with her on sets or to do shoots for publications, and so we get to see each other all the time.
And now with kink and stream it, you get to choose what you want to wear. How do you go about choosing what to wear?
So what I love to wear are corsets, and I love to wear red and black. I just feel very, very sexy in that, and heels. So I kind of have like what I'll do is I'll wear like I try to find like a matching lingerie set, and I get like a corset that will match. And always, usually they're black heels or boots or something. It's really what I feel sexy in that day. I mean, there could be something that I felt sexy in on Tuesday, and I put it on today, and I'm like, or today's Tuesday, yeah, that would be bad. I felt sexy in it, like, let's say I felt sexy in it last Thursday, and I put it on today. You know, I might not feel sexy in it. So I think it's just whatever I put on, and I'm like, ooh, I look hot. That's what I'm gonna wear.
And obviously, corsets tend to be tight. How does that affect your boobs?
Oh, that's why I have to wear a bra underneath them, or they're gonna come straight out. Like my boobs will come. They're all the way at the top. Like I could put a 8-course meal on it and not have to worry about a table. I could eat off my boobs like as soon as I tighten up a corset. So I always put a bra underneath to kind of help cover them up. Or I mean, some of my corsets, like I tighten them and then I start moving and boop, the nipples are out. So.
And when you're on cam, how do you deal with that and how do you fix that? Because you don't want to give anything away for free, right?
Well, that's why I keep the bra on. So, because then, like, if I move, my bra's gonna go with my nipple, so I don't really have to worry about that too much. Um, if I'm, there's been a couple of times that they just came out. I always say that the right one likes to come out and play more than the left one. So I'm like, oh, you guys got a free show. I'll tuck it back in, as fast as possible. The same thing used to happen to me when I danced. I'd be wearing a dress, and the next thing I know, my boobs would pop out the top. So it just happened. It happened to me at the post office. So to me, it's just like an everyday thing sometimes.
And now, while shooting, I mean, you have a connection with Florida fetish cams.
hmm
And
So,
obviously, yeah, how did that connection develop?
well, okay. So I met the owners of Florida Fetish Cam when I was dancing. I had just gotten off of work, and I think they had closed shop, and we met at Denny's, and I was super, super, super drunk when I met them. And I remember that the whole group of them were talking about, the only thing I remember about their conversations was they were talking about a baby Jesus butt plug. And I found it so amazing to hear this. And I, just jumped in the middle of their conversation, hammered. Well, about 2 years later, I get a phone call from the owner. I think it was a phone call, and saying that they were putting together the cam company and if I wanted to come cam over there. And I was like, sure. And then when I got face to face, I was like, oh my God, you're the baby Jesus butt plug man. Like, that's all I remember about from that one night, that the first night I met him. So he thought that was hilarious. But yeah, no, it was just, he contacted me. I went over there and worked there for a while. Unfortunately, they're no longer in business, which I was so sad about, and that was due to the kink sale to Flirt for Free. So that was a sad moment, I think, for all of us models that worked there.
And how does that affect you, being that that section of kink or that affiliate of kink or whatever their connection is with kink? Because I'm not familiar. Kind of closed down with the sale of kink.
So I mean, it was definitely a sad thing. I loved, like, that was my favorite time webcamming, was when I worked for Florida Fetish Cams and on the kink site. And we all knew that it was in beta, the kink.com, but we thought that they were going to, testing it out, and that they were going to just go big because it seemed like everything was successful. Um, when Kink sold it to Flirt for Free, our pay range as models went down significantly. It was the one and only campsite that had offered their models 60% of of what you made in your room, compared to all the other sites that offer 21 to 30%. So that was just a huge hit when it came to the whole to working for that. And I think that was why, you know, Florida Fetish Cam had to shut down, only because after that, the models are like, well, I'm not going to come in if I'm only going to make 21%, because I could do that from my bedroom in my pajamas.
And now with that, and you have some clips for sale as well as you do private shows. How did you get into that section, and how did the closing of Florida Fetish Cam affect that transition?
Well, I was actually doing the clips for sale and everything um, before the webcamming. I was doing fetish modeling and fetish videos for clips for sale, producers, which then transitioned into full porn. Um, but the Florida fetish cam it was steady money. So it was great. I'm lucky because everywhere I was going at that time, it was right around the corner from my house. Like Florida Fetish Cam Studios was right around the corner from my house. So it was just like I get up, shower, look pretty, go to Florida Fetish Cam, make what I wanted to for the day, and then come home and enjoy family time. So when they shut down, that was like a big hit just because, it was okay, now it's back to traveling 2 hours just because a lot of the clips for sale studios are 2-3 hours away when you're working for them. Um, but I was doing that like right around the time, like while I was dancing and doing the phone sex, I was doing the fetish and the porn with the clips for sale.
And now you were I mean, you just said you were doing everything all at once. How did
Mm-hmm.
each and everything affect the other? So, how did dancing affect you webcamming and affect you working with Florida Fetish Cam and producing clips?
Um, well, I started dancing less because I was busy doing other things. So it affected, my relationships with my regulars. I did have a couple that found out because there was a couple of girls. They were just so happy for me that they blurted out to clients that would walk through the door, at the clubs, and they'd be like, "Oh, she does porn." So as soon as you hear, "Oh, she does porn," they'd be like, "Well, how much to take you home?" Where so that's where automatically they thought I was a hooker, and I'm like, I'm not, and you'd have to explain the difference between doing porn and, prostitution, which is illegal in the state of Florida. Um, I mean, it's legal in the state of Nevada. I mean, so whoever does that in the state of Nevada, good, you go, girl. I mean, if I lived out in Nevada, I'd probably be working at the Bunny Ranch. So I'm honest about that. I love sex, but it's I once I started doing the fetish modeling and porn, I did enjoy that more than the dancing because the dancing does take a toll on you. It's a lot of stress. It's long hours. You're constantly, majority of the time, you're drinking with your clients. So, I mean, you're feeling like crap the next day. I used to be able to say I could drink a Marine under the table. Now I'm lucky if I can drink my grandmother under the table because I don't drink really anymore. But I mean, it was you spread yourself thin when you're going all over the place doing so many things at once, and you finally have to realize you have to give something up. And that was like the sad moment for me. I was like, what do I have to? What can I give up without sacrificing who I am? And that's when I gave up the dancing. And now I only do like feature dancing because that's a few times a year, whereas it's not every single night.
And now, being that you also do currently you do a lot of private Skype sessions as well as, I don't know, do you still do a few clips for sale?
I do. I do. I actually do. I took some time off from a lot of modeling for the past several months. Actually, I didn't go to FetishCon this year or anything, and it's not that I didn't want to go. I took the time off because I was actually in a really bad car accident. So I needed that time to heal. Nothing bad. I just had, a couple of like internal injuries that I had to take care of. But now I'm actually starting in December, going to start going back part-time and then go back full-time. So that will definitely be good. The clips for sale, I started producing my own videos, not for clips for sale, actually for mini vids. and I do have a few clips on there, and I love doing the audio clips, um, which is just you just hear my voice with a bunch of pictures. Um, but yeah, starting December and January, I'll be back to full time with producers, shooting, and traveling a lot more and things like that.
And now, excuse me. And now, how does your pay cut work with all the clip for sale stuff, as well as your own videos that you're producing, as well as ManyVids, which is a new site, from my understanding?
So if I work for a producer, I just get paid for the shoot, which it just goes by what the content is and what my rate is. And I am so lucky to have one of the best managers in the industry, Connor Cox from Cox Models. He negotiates all that, so I never have to look like the bad person. He does all the negotiating, which I love. For producing your own stuff, um, the if you produce your own videos on Clips for Sale and ManyVids, which is a newer site, um, you get 60% of the net sales. So but on what's nice on ManyVids is as a model, you could sell your shoes, you could sell your panties, you could sell signed photographs and things like that, and it's the same, cut and everything else.
And do you sell your clothes and your items on
I
ManyVids?
sell I sell everything. I always tell someone if you don't see it on my ManyVid store because I don't put too much up there just because it just when one thing sells and I'll put something else up there. I always tell somebody just message me and if I have it, yeah, I will definitely send it out. I mean, I have someone that I send stockings to once a month, just because he loves stockings. So I save them, especially when I have a convention. I save those stockings for him. I send one person Pussy Pops, which he loves. Those are little lollipops that I've played with in certain areas and then got back up and sent out. um, my shoes are a big thing. Depending on which shoes they are, those range in different prices just because I have favorite shoes I really don't want to get rid of. But, when someone really begs me for them, I'll be like, okay, you can have them finally. So yeah, usually if somebody doesn't see something in the store, they just message me and I'm like, yeah, I can see what I could do about that.
And now, do you sell panties, thongs, G-strings, as well as bras?
Yep. Yep. I sell panties, G-strings, the sets, socks, sweaty socks from exercising. Um, you
And to,
know,
to, to further the sale, I mean, you have nice big boobs. What exactly is your size? Because everybody loves big boobs.
I love how you say everyone loves big boobs because that is not true, but thank you. 36 double D. Those are yeah. I actually literally have a really good hourglass. It's 30, 36, 27, 36. So I was lucky there. I thank my mother every day. But yeah, 36 double D.
And now you mentioned that you go to Fetish Con almost
Mhm.
every year. What is that scene like, and how do you dress for that?
So I dress as a kitty cat. Like I said, I'm a furry fanatic. I wear my kitty ears every time I go. Um, my partner, Damian Hunt, who I've done a bunch of videos with. He's been my longtime partner, and for fun, he actually has created all my kitty collars, and he has a line of collars he has for men and women, and like face masks and stuff. I wear a lot of corsets. Um, Depending, like the first day I'll wear jeans, but a lot of times I change throughout the day. Like I'll go into the convention, I might be wearing jeans. I go to a shoot, I come back in a dress. go to another shoot, come back in like a little tiny leather thingy that I don't even know what you would call it, but it's like a couple of strips of leather and that's it with some boots. And then the whole time wearing kitty ears. I never take my kitty ears off unless I'm filming. And then depending on what the party is how I dress. So like there is a meet and greet party, so I wear a sexy short dress to the meet and greet party. To the ball and the award show on the last day, I wear a gown. And for like the other party, usually it's themed, so I dress up. And the pool, I put my bikini on. I run up to my room the same amount of time I'm talking to people. Like, so I'm constantly running downstairs, running up to my room, running downstairs, running up to my room. That's how much times I change. The only thing I never wear is latex because I'm highly allergic to latex. And you will always see me wearing long gloves at FetishCon, like all the way like past my elbows, just so I could hug people that are wearing latex. Because since I can't touch anything with latex, it kind of helps protect my arms and my hands and stuff, so I don't have to worry about touching anybody wearing it.
And how much of a challenge is not being able to wear latex is for you in this
It
industry?
it's a huge challenge. That is one of the biggest challenges, especially at FetishCon, because there are like 3 booths that just sell exclusively latex. Um, I wake up. I actually have when I go to FetishCon, I before I go, the doctor prescribes me like a prescription allergy medicine, and I have to take it. And even if I don't touch it, if I smell it, I start sneezing and breaking out in hives. So I take it before I go into the room. I don't ever hug people fully. I kind of just I give them these weird types of hugs, and they understand just because I'm so allergic to it. Um, so yeah, it's kind of sad because there's a lot of awesome latex outfits, and I can't wear them. And it sucks because like I always joke around this time because it's Halloween, and you see all these latex prosthetics that I can never wear, and I'm like, I wish I wasn't allergic to latex, but it's so bad like I can't wear a Band-Aid. So you know, it could be worse. You know, at least I have other things I could wear. I wear like lace and, you know, fake leather and things like that. So,
So,
but you won't. The one thing you won't see me doing is the fashion show at FetishCon. I can never do the fashion show there because it's all latex. So that's the
and
one
now
thing
you
that I will.
mentioned
Yeah.
your partner. How does
hmm
you being in this industry and doing clips for sale as well as doing a little bit of porn affect your relationship with your partner?
Um. You know what? If we thought we sat and we talked about it for a long time. I'm very fortunate. I have one of the most loving people I could ever have in my life with him. He's very accepting of everybody. There are scenes that he does with me, even in regular porn. Um, we we are swingers in our regular life, so we're very open about sex before I even started doing porn. Um, but we never had that huge challenge just because we keep open lines of communication, which is just so important in any relationship. And I mean, there's a couple of times when we've fought, and you know, he's like, "Oh, you suck dick for money," and I'm like, "Well, you let girls suck your dick for money." So I'm like, we're on the same ground there. You know, we really can't call the kettle black. So I just think with us having, you know, communication most of the time, I think that's what's really helped our relationship, and that's why, you know, we're okay with what we do.
I think I covered everything I wanted to ask. I mean, obviously, we addressed a lot of myths. I don't know if there's any myth that we didn't address that you would like to speak to.
um, I don't think so. I mean, we broke the myth about the dancers being drug addict, alcoholic hookers. Like I said, that's a huge one. Um,
And
you
reasonably
know,
so. If we think about it, I mean, it's portrayed that way, and it's always portrayed as people desperately needing money, and I
yeah.
mean, dancers, strippers, cam girls, and even porn stars. I mean, there's all these stories that come out, and that's kind of the reason why I wanted to do this project. Is that with the little information I know that in some cases that's the case because it's just naturally of all the people, but I kind of wanted to go and break that myth, and I think that we addressed a lot of the stuff, even the pay grade and how the money side and everything in between. So my final question is that do you have anything you'd like to promote for yourself?
Um, I am starting a new production company called Bleeding Heart Films. So I'm really excited about that. And I actually just started in a new industry. I just started real estate redevelopment, which is something that's I find more rewarding than anything else because I get to help people out of like real estate situations that they're facing, like foreclosures and short sales, and get them out of that problem, whichever way I can. And if it winds up me buying the house, I can fix it up and sell it to a family that a family looking for a home for their family, and redevelop the neighborhood around it. So that's been very rewarding there. Something that it's something that you don't get in like the porn industry, that feeling of helping others. I mean, you're helping others, but it's a different type of help. Um, but I mean, between those two new projects, I've been, pretty busy setting those up. So I'm really excited about those, and I'm excited to be going back to my modeling like December or January. Now that I'm healed from the accident and I can see because I have LASIK, nobody's got to worry about me rubbing my eyes anymore. So I'll be back 100% back at FetishCon next year. So, really excited about that.
And now Twitter, ManyVids name, Clips for Sales name.
Everything is off of Scarlett Demitro. I keep everything very simple. My Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, email, same thing, scarlettdemitro@gmail.com, so fans could always reach me. I do my best to answer every single message. If not, I do have an assistant that answers, and they do let me know, and I'll tell them like, listen, write this back to them, and send them lots of kisses. And the same thing on the many vids, even like any clips for sale and stuff like that. The mainstream films, I do go by a different name. Um, I use my birth name, Nakoma, because I try to separate the porn and the mainstream because there, in the industry there is some judgmental people, so you kind of separate those two. But you know, I try to keep it as simple as possible when it comes to naming things.
So thank you for being on the podcast.